it isn't, if they are, let's say for once we take him, say that he has some real strategy lying behind this, I would say that he's trying to make it seem like Iran agreed to something so that later on he can say that Iran refrained from carrying out what it promised to do, thus justifying another war. I think that's possible.
Well, and in fact,
there is a reason for him to bring all these troops. I mean, I don't think the weather is getting warm. We're heading towards summer. The costs for the United States are enormous. There's no fighting going on. The 40-day war was not a success for the United States. So I think that this is something that should be taken very seriously.
And let's just take a look at this. It's not just the Strait of Hormuz. You mentioned we look at least two of those other enumerated things that President Trump has said. And here he is with the Truth Social. Says the USA will get all the nuclear dust created by our great B-2 bombers. That's referring to the operation in 2025. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form. This deal is in no way subject to Lebanon either. And then he goes on a little bit later. This because he said a lot of things this morning. But one of the other important ones, let me see if I can roll up and find it. The Iran has agreed to never close the Strait of Hormuz again. It will never be used as a weapon. So my question to you is, did Iran agree that they would never use the Strait of Hormuz again? And did they agree that they would give away all the dust and that they would get nothing in return for it?
Yeah, all that is just made up stuff. And that is AENF too. Keep looking. So again, I'm not saying that there will definitely be more, but I think that if we're going to take these posts seriously, the fact that they will all take every single one of them, big, then to me, I may be wrong, it may be an ordinary day for Donald Trump, where he just said something. But if I, for once, was going to say that well, in this case, let's take a look and see maybe he could be serious. I would say this is to prepare a justification for another murderous war.
Sí.
And so let's look at that, because I mean, when I saw those things, I thought, why would Iran ever agree to give away all those things for nothing? Why would they agree to open the Strait of Hormuz on their side and allow it to stay blocked on the other side? That seemed irrational to me. But what you're saying makes it worse. You've been told none of those things are accurate.
That's right. I mean, first of all, the ceasefire is obviously all about Iran. Iran was supposed to allow ships to pass through, more ships. Ships that are linked to members of the regime, the Persian Gulf, to help the United States win the war. They're not friends. They killed Iranians. But Iran was supposed to allow more ships to go through. But because the Israeli regime began slaughtering the people of Lebanon in an outrageous manner a few days ago, just carpet bombed city after city, it was clear that they wanted to break the ceasefire. And so, because the United States violated its side of the bargain, the Iranians did not allow ships to go through. So, last 10 days, Iran had a large number of ships heading for different ports across the world to ease the trade. But Netanyahu prevented it. So Iran kept up the pressure. Trump put pressure on Netanyahu. And the night before last, there was supposed to be a ceasefire. Netanyahu again failed to deliver. And then Iran made an extra threat. Said, well, if this is going to continue, we'll just try to. And that tipped the balance, and it was over. Of course, the Americans sat together and had tea, and Netanyahu said, wow, that was nice, and so let's end the war. That's the narrative that they're promoting, and no sane person will believe it. But so this had very much to do with Iran. Iran has not agreed to hand over anything. Iran has not agreed to keep the Strait of Hormuz forever open. Iran has not agreed to any of the things that Trump has been saying. So why would Trump say it? Either he's just making up stuff to manipulate the market, which is quite possible because today's Friday, and it's the last day. He succeeded in bringing down the price of oil. He's done that multiple times. That's the one thing he's not good at it. But there's nothing here. Yes, exactly. But in reality, the oil, there's still the shortage of oil is still increasing. Every day, the shortage is getting worse of oil. Even if we have a number of limited ships going through the strait, there's a lot of damage done to the facilities in the Persian Gulf, and the way in which the Iranians have designed things, the number of ships that are going to go through are not all that great. So the shortage is going to get bigger and bigger, at least for the time being. And it's going to take time for our things to start up. But I think that we should not discount this notion that Trump is going to, it's like he's saying that you promised to give me $20,000 to, I don't know, to do this or that, and then I tell everyone, I said, you also promised this, and then at the end I say, you lied on this, and you lied on that, and you lied, and you never made a single commitment to me in the first place. But now I'm saying that you're in debt to me, you lied to me, you were only promised A, B, C, D, and F, and this is my response. This is what I want to do. This is how I have a, I think all of this can be interpreted.
And let me ask you one more thing. I know you're running real short on time here. Two more quick questions. One is President Trump last night made a comment here about how reasonable the new Iranian regime, as he calls it, is being willing to be. Let me show you what he said and then ask your view on the backside.
Blockade has been incredible. It's now, that's what we're getting business. They're unable to do anything because of the blockade. And so the combination of having no Navy, having no Air Force, having no anti-aircraft equipment, they have nothing. Everything is gone, including the leaders down there, which is leaders, and we find them very reasonable.
Very reasonable. First of all, do you agree with his characterization that Iran has nothing and it's lost everything? Because if that's the case, I don't know why we bothered with the ceasefire. We should have just given you terms of surrender. But what about this reasonable new leadership?
It's like everything else he says. It's just, none of it makes any sense. And he's been saying that a long time. He's been saying that they're begging for a deal. They want to do whatever I say, and it's just, that's why I'm not sure that the interpretation that I provided is necessarily true. That he wants to raise up make justification for war, because he could just be talking about this all the time. And then they said, people ask me, what do you think Trump means by this? I said, and this is a fact. I never watch Trump. I don't read his quotes unless someone puts it in a group or something where I see it. I never watch him. I only read the headlines because it doesn't help me. I don't get anything from it because he'll say one thing today and something else some other day, so I'm just not going to waste my time listening to him. But again, taking into consideration he's brought so much. But before the war started, I believed that we were going to I only know, what in the end, I didn't know, because I don't want to, create any concern. I just there when you bring in all these things, when you bring in all these weapons, when you bring in all these planes, it's highly unlikely that this is just about a bluff. Someone wants a bluff and maybe get some concessions. So right now, the United States under Trump is bringing in more weapons. So I believe there's a good chance of time. And here, correct me if I'm wrong. I wasn't in the military 100 years ago in my youth, and I was never like myself a trained officer. So I knew that, and I we're approaching hotter weather very soon, and within a month, in a month from now, it's going to start getting very hot and humid in the Arabian Peninsula and the Persian Gulf. And I think fighting war is going to be difficult. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, you say no, but technology is the case. But, when they invaded, when the United States took away from Saddam and when they invaded Iraq, he was great. We are at the end stage of the weather in the Persian Gulf. And in a month from now, the weather is going to increase rapidly. And it will get very hot, and they have sandstorms and all these things. I think that if Trump wanted to attack Iran, the more he waits, the more difficult it becomes. In this respect,
no doubt. I can certainly. I actually went through one of those sandstorms and Desert Storm in 1991, so I have direct experience with what you're talking about, and it's no picnic. So we'll have to wait and see again on that too. So I hope that's.
So again, this is all speculation.
Yeah.
I want your viewers to know I have no insider knowledge. All I did was I'm just saying that this could be an interpretation of what Trump is doing, and also since I think that in a month from now, 2 months from now, it really becomes really impossible to fight a war in that heat. I mean, the soldiers would be moralized. So he doesn't have much of a window of opportunity since you confirmed that what I thought is not incorrect. So I think that the chances for war in the coming days and coming couple of weeks is probably quite good.
So what is the make of the president's comment that the new Iranian leadership because that would have to be pushed apart from the is he going to be more reasonable than others?
Well, I believe that Ayatollah Khamenei, the father, was very reasonable, and I see him as a martyr. But I don't think anything has changed. I don't think he means it that way. I just think he's, when I was a kid, they used to say he's winging it. I just think that he's just saying things, and that's why this interpretation of mine, this possible interpretation, can be easily rejected because that's
well, that's true. Yeah, we certainly live that. We have to watch it. It's a more challenge for me. Listen to Dr. Last question. What is anything else talking about the weather or anything else? What does Iran need? What are the three things that they are non-negotiable in order to bring this war to an end so that their traffic can go back through the Strait of Hormuz? What do they have to have from the United States?
Well, the 10-point plan, of course, is the basis of the negotiations. Trump accepted them, and they're not unreasonable demands. Iran did not lose the war. I would argue that Iran won the war. But I really want to provide a great one, as you said, I think sovereignty, compensation, and security for Iran's friends across the region.
Compensation, what does that look like? Physically,
I think that Iran will force these Arab family regimes in the Persian Gulf to pay that compensation, whether it's through the Strait of Hormuz or a combination of things. I don't know, but I think that is what they're going to do. To get that done.
So therefore, U.S. is not willing to give any money or allow the type of situation set up. And if they say we demand we don't have then the war will continue on in that direction.
To get money from ships. It may allow some ships to be less or very friendly countries to, be treated differently. But Iran is going to do that. But I think that in the case of Trump, if he wants to go to war, then it will have nothing to really do with the Strait of Hormuz or anything else. It'll be because
And the last question, if the ceasefire does come to an end next week, or whenever it does, and the U.S. goes back to bombing, as you fear he may be setting up the case for, what will be the Iranian reaction?
Well, actually, I'm not quite sure he'll wait till the ceasefire comes to an end. He may try to surprise Iran. After all, every time Iran negotiates, he tries to initiate a war. So there's no reason to believe that he will wait for the ceasefire to end. I'm sure the Iranian armed forces are fully prepared as we speak for war. But I think the Iranian response will be devastating. We saw that by the end of the war, Iran was hitting harder than early on in the war. And Iran is preparing itself for the next phase. I think that the United States, when they try to take the island, Iran and some territory, I think the Iranians drones and missiles, and weeks, if not months, and just make them bleed and pay. And Iran will continue to destroy vessels in the Persian Gulf. If Iran's infrastructure is destroyed, it'll destroy the infrastructure on the other side of the Persian Gulf. And this is another important point. It's going, as we discussed earlier, it's going to get very hot in the West. And these Arab regimes in the Persian Gulf, if they're elected, they will have to get in their cars and travel across so these countries will collapse, every single one of them. Here in Iran, if they start breaking if I look out the window, if I'm in a place where I could see beyond the other buildings, there's snow on the mountains. There's a huge difference between the Kuwait, and Iran. Destroyed. First of all, it can be destroyed in a couple of days completely. They will all have to leave in a month from now. On the other hand, if they strike the structure, it takes much longer, and by the time that they come through, there's no this is not a situation. The economy will be fall into deep depression, worse than 1929 if there's war. It's catastrophic. Mental comprehension, because tens, if not hundreds of people will go hungry, tens, if not hundreds of millions of people will be on the move, looking for somewhere to save themselves. They will be on the
Well, yeah, that's materialized. Everything else is catastrophic or worse in comparison. Thank you so much for coming on today.
One final point.
Sure.
One final point. And that's why I keep telling people to go and read that book, Going to Tehran. And maybe you can invite Clinton to the show. They show the way forward. People in Washington decide to take the route chosen for them by Zionists. And that's what's leading us towards catastrophe.
In that direction, and let us hope that we can find it. But thank you so much. I know your time is really valuable. Thank you so much for killing some time off. And that was Claude. One of the things I want to highlight something that he said, just as kind of as we go forward. He said, "I'm not." But he's invited by the government to the last round of negotiations because he understands the way they think, and obviously he has connections with the West, like in our channel here. But it's also important to understand that he is a combat veteran. He fought in the Iran-Iraq War, and that he certainly understands how the Iranians think. And so when he gives his personal opinion, which he stressed several times, you've got to say that's got a pretty good likelihood of being true. And we're going to find out here. side is saying in there. So the Iranians have only agreed to open the strait, which is the American side saying, just only the Iranian side agreed to drop their blockade, and we're going to keep ours up, and then they're going to give away their reprocessing, they're going to give away their enriched material, they're going to stop supporting process and all that kind of stuff. That's the maximalist position that was given before, which Iran had agreed to. Within diplomatic reach before we threw that away. Now we're going to wait and see. They're going to somehow capitulate. I give about a fraction of 1% for that to be the case, because that would be irrational, illogical to go against everything the Iranian side does, and it would contravene the leverage that they have in their hands and within their power. That would be illogical. Way for literally nothing in return. He promised them money, something like that. 13,000 attacks, and they have emerged and suddenly taken away nothing. So either Trump isn't telling us everything, or what he's telling us isn't true. And as you see on the screen right there, you see the Central Command. That apparently is live. The U.S. And she says, for us, this continues. Now we'll wait and see what impact that has on the Iranians. Will their blockade then consequently that's what time will tell. One of the things I wanted to talk about here, and why Professor Murad I asked you if this ceasefire doesn't turn back into conflict, and if by whatever means, and it goes back into a hot war, and the U.S. returns to attacking Iran, what would they do? And he described to you right there about hitting critical infrastructure. If we get their critical infrastructure, they're going to get ours and our allies in the region, which will cause just utter devastation. And obviously, straight to nothing but a full I've shown you a few of them where Senator Kennedy of Louisiana said they hate us. They get a nuclear weapon. The president himself, who said that there was no imminent threat because all the nuclear material is entombed and buried in the facilities. Has satellite assets on it to prove that it's not true. Well, and then, okay, there's area that says 40 minutes ago. Iran did not think that Iranian unfortunately, this is embarrassing to have to admit. So far, some of the things that we've seen by the Iranian side, at least more of them, have proven to be true, and the things that we have said at the senior levels have proven to be false or just a deception. I'm not saying that the Iranians are a paragon of truth. They'll be dishonest. They'll be deceptive. That's how it works. You have to just accept that. That's how it is for all sides. We have to here's through the word. Every time we look at what is true on the ground. What's true on the ground right now is that the United States has suffered terribly in this war. And that's what I want to leave you with, understand. When you hear people say that we had to do this, or this is somehow the cost us so far, and then let me project it. A couple days ago, I showed you with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and you just pointed a bony finger out admonitions and said, basically said, you guys are insufficient. Whose side are you on? Never being asked that, whose side are you on? Well, I can tell you yes for me, because I'm obviously one of those he was wagging the finger at, because I'm not cheerleading with whatever the Pentagon says, and I'm not having a bunch of fluff pieces, which is weirdly what he actually asked for. For example, why people are covering more fluff, and while they are talking the truth, that's what they're compromise to tell you the truth. And so we're side am I on? I am on and I may reasonably ask, whose side are these war advocates on? Whose side is the Secretary of War?
Del lado del diablo,
For our security, for our defense.
del lado del demonio que mata gente.
We lusted for, and the Europeans. So far, let's tell you what we've had here. Wait, see, there's been some questions about whether or not we've been, the Pentagon has been
Qué
hiding some
cansancio.
casualty lists, but at least 13 we know of are dead. Reapers have been destroyed or shot down. That's costing us about $3 billion on that by itself. 10 radar systems erased. At least destroyed. That's completely destroyed. Already working around $200 billion. Budget request that came through.
Ok. Ay, las hojitas. Los pétalos. Ok. Molde. Bueno, una vez que hice todo el quilt, no importa cómo quedó atrás, porque esto va a ser el interior del almohadón. El molde lo tengo acá. Este molde lo tomé de un... Me llené de pelos. De la tapa de un plástico, de un contenedor de la cocina. Entonces, a ver si se ve. Ahí. Ahí. Entonces, una vez que tengo hecho el quilt, el acolchado, voy a marcar esto, que va a ser la parte de arriba y la base de mi cilindro, ¿sí? De igual manera, yo hice el sándwich, acá está, el sándwich de lo que sería el cuerpo del almohadón, ¿sí? Esto tiene... ¡Ay, qué fuerte! Esto tiene de circunferencia 75 centímetros, entonces mi paño, no, creo que tiene 72 centímetros. A ver, lo voy a medir. 72 centímetros. Yo lo mido así. Esto tiene, creo que son 72 centímetros. Ahí, sí. A ver. Sí, son 72 centímetros de circunferencia. Entonces, mi paño tiene 75. Esperemos que no se encoja tanto. Y si no me llegara a alcanzar, tengo que quitar a esto 1 centímetro. También uní las tiras, puse la guata, puse una tela acá cualquiera que no tiene importancia y tengo que hacer lo mismo que hice con esto. Este mismo trabajo de bordado, de quilt, con el pie de doble arrastre sería para la máquina familiar. Acá no importa cómo queda. Entonces, después de esto tengo que hacer todo esto, ¿sí? Yo lo voy a hilvanar, le paso un hilván por acá, por acá, por acá o por donde sea para que esto no se me mueva tanto cuando estoy cosiendo. Así hago todas los quilteados, le paso un hilván. Esto vendría a ser el cuerpo de mi almohadón. Tiene que tener 50 centímetros de alto y arriba va a ir la tapa. ¡Ay, qué lindo! También va a tener un cierre, va a llevar cierre para que después lo podamos lavar. Entonces, no, traigo esto y voy a usar una lapicera de esas que se apagan con calor para poder marcar primero y antes de cortar tengo que pasarle una costura para que no se me suelten las costuras que ya hice. Entonces, de esto necesito 2. Acá no me alcanza, pero tengo más tiras ahí para hacer. Entonces, a ver si se ve ahí. Sí. Ahí. Ay, no miren el desastre de mi mesa. Tengo todo arriba de la mesa, todo, todo, todo. Entonces esto lo marco. Esta lapicera es de las que se apagan con calor. Aprovechando retazos. Tengo muchísimos retazos de tela en mi taller, muchísimos. Y voy a estar haciendo vivos de cómo los aprovecho, de cómo hago para poder aprovecharlos haciendo bolsos, carteras, acolchados, almohadas, fundas. En los vivos anteriores les mostré cómo hacer esto, cómo hice esta manopla de cocina. Y estaba viendo, hice una sola, pero estaba viendo que me faltan la tirita para colgar y la etiqueta. Así de paso lo vendo. Adentro también tiene todo bordado. Esto es una obra de arte, señoras y señores. Esto ni siquiera quiero que lo pongan en la cocina. Es como una decoración. No es para usarlo, no es para usarlo. Acá hice más. Hoy en la mañana también estuve en vivo haciendo varios de estos. ¿Sí? Todo esto son retazos que me sobraron. Esto me regaló una amiga, esto lo compré para hacerme un pantalón, esto un pantalón de jean de mi hijo que no lo usaba más y lo corté, esto es de un trabajo. Todos los retacitos son los que me quedaron ahí. Yo los fui cortando. La medida es 9 centímetros por 5 centímetros. Después lo fui poniendo intercalados, no sé si se puede ver ahí. Y después arriba les tengo que hacer el bordado, que eso ya lo hago de forma libre, ¿sí? Tengo que hacer varios porque ya me encargaron, ya me pidieron para que se los vendiera, pero miren qué bonito que queda. Una pieza única, una pieza absolutamente divina, única. El molde creo que también alguna vez, hace muchos años, lo tomé de internet, que era un molde gratuito. Y bueno, eso por un lado. Yo esto ahora lo voy a coser, una vez que está marcado, lo voy a coser y después recién lo corto. porque así no se me corren las costuras, con una puntadita bien pequeña para que no se suelten cuando cortamos. Si puedo, me voy a conectar todos los días a la tarde o todo el día, porque hoy estuve conectada todo el día haciendo esto. Hoy a la mañana les contaba por qué me tengo que hacer un almohadón en forma de cilindro, porque yo tengo una muy mala posición para dormir. Entonces, consultando con la inteligencia artificial, me había sugerido de que tengo que abrazar un muñeco. Así que anoche me prestó un muñeco mi hijo, que es con el que él duerme, para poder abrazarlo, y cuando lo abrazo, relajar los hombros para que no me duela tanto la nuca y la espalda. Entonces decidí hacer este almohadón en forma de cilindro con estos retazos. A ver, voy a bajar la puntada. Este pie es un pie de máquina que se llama de doble arrastre. En inglés le dicen walking foot, que es específicamente para esto, para poder hacer esta clase de quilteados, de bordados. Entonces acá voy cosiendo. Esto ya tiene centímetro de costura. Bueno, ahí, este pie, porque algunas chicas me preguntaron, según tengo entendido, la máquina tiene unos dientes que se mueven abajo, que hacen que tire la tela. Y este pie hace que se mueva la tela arriba. Entonces tenés los dientes que mueven la tela de abajo, y este pie mueve la tela arriba también. Entonces como que van juntos, como si fuera una máquina doble arrastre. Es según como entiendo, la verdad que puede ser que me equivoque. Esto lo voy a cortar, una vez que está cosido, lo voy a cortar con la tijera que tiene los dientes de zigzag. Está acá, que la compré para hacer muñecos. Hice algunos y después abandoné. No está tan... A ver si se ve. Bueno, pero solamente voy a cortar esto. Y ya corto. Esta tijera. A ver si se ve. Ahí. Esta tela es algodón o mezcla. Yo tengo muchos retazos porque a mí me gusta coser. Yo cosí toda la vida, me encanta. He hecho muchos pantalones de frisa y buzos de egresados. Y tengo muchas telas sobrantes, entonces tenía pensado hacer unas camperas o abrigos para el invierno, pero todo utilizando los retazos, aprovechamiento de retazos. Ahí está. Otra vez este hombre no. Chao. Bueno, entonces necesito hacer otro de estos porque acá no me alcanza, a no ser que lo cosa, pero no lo quiero coser. Entonces, primero voy a hacer esto. Esto iría así. A ver si les puedo mostrar. Sin mostrarle el desastre de mi taller. Esto iría así. Lo veo bastante largo, por eso tiene que tener 50 centímetros nada más. Acá está el centímetro. Esto tiene que tener 50 centímetros. Sí. Y 50 es mucho, te diría. Puede tener 45 también. Con la costura 47. O 45 y quedan 43. O 40. No, 40 está bien. Me parece que 40 está bien. 45, 50 es mucho. Bueno, no importa. Primero lo tengo que hilvanar. Otro trabajo aparte. Lo tengo que hilvanar y esto iría así. Una vez que esté todo hecho como este, que esté toda la costura hecha, que quede así aplastado, esto va a ir acá arriba. Va a quedar así, un almohadón cilindro. Bueno, después me conecto. Adiós, gracias.